Welcome to Neighburgh. This is episode 1, and we are going to be talking about the coronavirus.
Guess what, bitch? Coronavirus! Coronavirus!
It's Corona time. Hey, it's Corona time right now. It's Corona time.
We have a really interesting dynamic because I'm 25.
Old.
Who knows how old Jim is? I think this is a good intro. We should just roll with this.
I ain't rolling now.
Let's get into it.
I ain't rolling now. Hold on.
Listen up, people, hear the word. Welcome to the Neighborgh. Hey, 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 Neighborgh. Hey, 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 Neighborgh. Yeah. What's up? Hey. Hey, hey, hey. Listen up, people, hear the word. Welcome to the Neighborgh.
Hello, I'm Jim Emmerling.
And I'm Willie James.
What are we doing, Willie?
We are a part of this podcast. It's called Neighborgh. And, you know, we have an intro. And
It's got a beautiful intro.
Yeah, you've hired this amazing man, and he's
Witkowski.
childhood friends with him.
We're really not childhood friends, but 30 plus years.
30 plus years. That's a significant amount of time. And, you know, I freaked out when I found out that Ricky was the guy who made the Nick, Nickelodeon, and like a whole bunch of other things. Like, just a really creative individual. But anyways, to get into the podcast. Jim.
Well, it was my goal, and after being in the business for 30 plus years and where I'm at this point, and I had bought this place, 706 James, I'm real proud of, on the north side of Pittsburgh. And this is my time in my life where I thought, you know, I'm going to do what I should have done when I was 21. You know, I wanted to be a sportscaster. They just didn't pay a lot of money in Steubenville, Ohio, but there's topics that need to be talked about.
Yeah, and you know what? I think we're going to go way beyond sports.
I got to meet a young man who I've kind of adopted and kind of like a fourth son. I got a lot of fourth sons. People that know me know that. And he's a millennial. I raised 4 of them. But we have topics that got to talk about. And he's a young man who he's the most inquisitive son of a bitch I've ever met. Good, bad, or indifferent. But we tolerate one another, and for the world to progress, millennials and boomers, you got to get along. There's topics, race topics, gender topics, political topics, recreation topics. There's just all these topics, sexual topics, anything that you could possibly think of that people were afraid to talk about, you need to talk about. No topic is off subject. So private message either of us on Facebook and let us know what you want to talk about, because we're going to talk about it. Those that know me know that I'm not shy, and we will discuss anything. We look to have great guests talking about what's important. And when we say Neighborgh, that is the region. It's though again, those that you know me, I'm the burb of the burg. I'm from Steubenville, and Steubenville is part of Pittsburgh. I grew up in New Kensington, and tonight I did my local. I called ahead and I ordered out for Gunny's Wings because I had to have my wing fix. And you know, you can still go to see your local restaurants and they'll hand you your food, but they need your patronage. But
yeah, that's one of the things that I noticed about Pittsburgh, because you're talking about how, you know, it's not just the city limits, but it's even beyond that. And, you know, when my family moved back here, I was 16 years old. So my idea of Pittsburgh was very different from the people who just grew up here. I mean, I was here until about age 6. So I didn't have any idea. I just knew the visual imagery of Pittsburgh and, you know, sports, the Steelers. And even though I don't watch sports and things like that myself,
he's one of the
I'm
few
still a
people I ever
supporter.
met in my life that has no clue about sports.
Yeah.
I got to take him to his first Steeler, Pirate, and Penguin game. I feel good about that.
So I've been to the Pirates before, but that was the very first Steeler game and Penguin game I ever went to, and it was an amazing time. But I've always treated sports events like social events. I'm there to have a good time, talk with the people who I'm with, and just, have a drink or two and just hang out. And that's what I love.
And I
about
get
it.
upset when we lose.
I'm like, oh well, better luck next time. That's always been my mindset on it.
Well, that's the introduction, and we'll get right into what's going on right now.
The coronavirus.
I would say yes. The coronavirus, or as our president calls it, the Chinese virus, and that's a whole other topic, and this and that, and so forth and so on. It did originate somewhere, but that's neither here nor there. But we're faced with a situation, and I was born in 1962. That it's right. The Cuban Missile Crisis, which I like to teach history to a lot of the millennials that don't know it. I've talked to Willie about this, and
I know
that would probably. But again, I was very young, so I can't say I remember that. But that would have been an event in this country. Everybody's hunkering down because you think it's World War and we're all getting blown up. In essence, we have kind of a silent killer going on right now, and you have an economic ramifications that I've never seen. It's worse than stock market crashes, because this one, with a stock market crash, no one's sick, you can build it. This one, I'm very optimistic, though. I think things are in place, but it's a scary thought. It's kind of like the strong will survive, and it's pretty disheartening to think that there are going to be people that aren't going to survive this.
That's the hard part. Is that
it's traumatic.
And I have no context on which to view this. Like, I've never survived a pandemic that, to my awareness, I've never seen one before. So to see such a big reaction, and all of a sudden there's this big emphasis on washing hands and making sure that you use hand sanitizer and keeping social distance. Now I think we're starting to test not just Americans, but the whole world's ability to stay indoors and not do some of the more extroverted activities that we're accustomed to doing, whether it's like going out to a sports event or even going to like your kid's graduation, things like that.
Everybody thinks they can handle isolation, and some can't. I'm very poor at it. I'm a social freak. I'm living by the rules, but since I was born, I was testing every rule that there ever was, and when it comes to my fellow man and my community and my fellow business owners, I'm going to help them any way I can, and if that means I got to get within 6 feet of them, I'm going to get within 6 feet of them. I'm not going to stay behind my door. Yeah,
because we still have to support our local businesses and things like that, especially during this hard time, because we want them to be able to weather the storm and come out on the other side and still be okay, and maybe even better than okay.
Well, I think if things work the way they should, things will be better and greater than ever. I truly believe that, but it's pretty tough. If you're someone like myself who's worked 39 years to try to retire, my view is I would like to retire before I expire, and I sure hope I can do that, but I ain't looking at my 401, Willie, because that would be depressing as hell. That would be just god awful.
Well, I think a lot of people are trying to figure out how to adjust to this situation, because all of a sudden they're not able to go to work. A lot of people, they're considered like the non-essential businesses, and I know there's a lot of discussion about like what's essential and what's non-essential, and I think we even talked a little bit about that. Because in our view, like especially like if you're going to shoot a commercial, or not just a commercial, but like a public announcement for a hospital that we did the other day.
We had to go to a hospital.
Yeah.
None of us wanted to go, but that's our job. We had to get a public service announcement out to a community about what's going on.
Exactly, and that counts as like essential in my view.
Well, one would think.
Now, what do you think might be considered like a non-essential business? Because I'm not fully clear on this. is a convenience store a non-essential business?
There's food in that. I mean, there's always going to be gray areas. Do you need a shoe store?
No.
Maybe you do. I don't know. I don't think, but I mean, eventually you will.
I have to get some new running shoes.
Well, it's not tomorrow, or probably in the next 2 weeks. So I mean, it's tough. I mean, we're living in the two most progressive states. I mean, Mike DeWine has been incredible in the state of Ohio as far as he's leading the nation in how to handle this thing. And Wolf, I think, is on his coattails and what have you. And you set up these policies, and then Pennsylvania got pissed today because bars and restaurants aren't living up to their end of the deal. And so now that needs a clearer explanation as to who should do what.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, we're not on household arrest.
Right.
And God forbid we get to household arrest.
You know, it might come
I truly believe I'm comfortable in going to the park and taking a nice long walk. You know, if I walk by somebody and I'm 6 feet away, I'll wave to them. How you doing? God bless you. I don't know what to tell you, but I'll go nuts.
Yeah, I mean, like I've noticed today walking in the park, there's actually quite a few people walking in the park. I think a lot of people are starting to get a little bit more air. And this was West Park, you know, right over there. I don't know. Does that count as West Park? No, it's towards like around Allegheny General, like when you're walking through the park.
It's all one park. I'm not.
I don't think it's all called
I
West
think you've
Park
lived there
though.
longer than I, but
I should know this, but I don't. So I saw a lot of people.
down by Lake Elizabeth. I like Lake Elizabeth.
Yeah, I love Lake Elizabeth. So there's like, people out and about walking their dogs. I seen somebody teaching their kid how to ride a bike. You know, so I'm like, I think people have a general idea of like it's still important to get outside and get fresh air, but also to keep that social distance because we're trying to limit how many people come into contact with that virus.
Everybody is,
at one time.
You know, you and I argue about it. I suggested on Sunday evening, I was talking to my wife and I said, trying to limit my sphere to like 16 to 20 people. Now my family's 10. So how do you do that? And, you know, 4 people, which I agree, you know, try to have 4 people. But our 4 people see these 4 people who see those 4 people who see, then it's a monstrosity.
Exactly.
So I don't know what the answer to that question is, but I think, you know, limiting what you do and the number of people you come in contact with and the number of people they come in contact with, I mean, that's what they're trying to do.
Yeah, just having like those best practices. But
like a hospital. That is, you know, we had to do our job the other day. Mm-hmm. That is the last effing place I want to go.
Right. I mean,
I don't want to go to a hospital. Mm-hmm. I mean, you just don't want to do that. Plus, they don't want you there either.
Yeah.
I mean, they got jobs to do.
I feel like we're really lucky right now because there's only been, and this was from, this is outdated information. I don't know what the current stats are, but I remember there being 2 cases in Allegheny County, so which is really good because I think they tested over 100 people yesterday or something like that. Really?
Yeah, we jumped to 18 or 20.
Oh wow! Yeah, that thing can grow really fast.
Oh, we can get in. I think we're going to cut it short tonight, and God only knows I'm going to be together a good bit of time. We'll bring it up, and we would like your input. Please tell us, you know, is this something you want to see? Because, you know, I'm going to get Peduto in here, Mayor Peduto. And we're going to talk about things like that. We're going to get my friends. I'll tell you, I really took a long reflection today about everybody that's been in my life. You have your 2 parents, I don't. And it's been not too long ago. And it's a bitch, you know, because these are people I bounce stuff off of. But we're going to bring people in here, people that I grew up with, people that you grew up with, people of importance, and talk about subjects and talk about any subject. This is what we're doing from this point on. That's what neighborgs do. That's what neighbors do for neighbors. Yeah. And keep it civil. We may argue, I may cuss, all that kind of stuff. But as far as tonight's episode, just obey the rules. Obey the rules. And coming from Jim or Jab, it ain't easy to obey rules.
Yeah, I think generally.
I'm not obeying my wife's rules because I'm here tonight. But You know, you'll have that, but she still loves me after all these years. Anyway, let's obey the rules.
Yeah, just in general, stay indoors, limit social contact, practice social distancing, sanitize your hands, make sure your friends are also trying to follow the rules as well. It's
Speaking from a
difficult.
millennial, would you tell your millennials to, you know, it's not a matter of them being able to survive.
Which is actually in question right now from what I've heard. Apparently,
I know, you know what,
there's some people who aren't.
hey, if
having an easy
you're
time.
stupid enough, she might be stupid enough to die too. So I don't know.
Well, I think that if you take the risk, then you should be the one who carries the risk. But in the case of the coronavirus, it's mostly the risk that you're passing off to other people.
Correct.
So there's a certain amount of social responsibility we all have to each other to make sure that we're not needlessly, spreading the virus to everybody.
Anyway, Jim Emmerling,
Willie James.
Willie James, Guinness, iced
Yep,
tea,
iced tea.
salute.
Salute. Or salute. I'm practicing my Italian. Voglio imparare molto italiano.
Neighbor!